And it should be recording. And let's have it side by side. Okay, guys, attention now. So in here, what we've done before, we had the total days, total minutes, total hours, and we summed them, and then we printed them somewhere down there, and that's the number 8, 27, and 14. Actually, maybe I'll just allow this one so that we can actually see that it's the sum up of those. Now, in here, we wrote this helping just for our minds, how to transform minutes into hours, hours into days, and days into years, because that's basically what we want to do with this total, this total over here. So we enter the for loop, and we sum the total days, total hours, total minutes. Then down here, we calculate the total minutes into hours, and now we have a total hours, right? But we also have the total hours from there. So now we sum these two, this one and the one that was coming from here, and divided by 24, and that gives us the total days. So this step, we have the total days. And now we need the total years, which basically means that we get this one here, which in our case was that 8, plus whatever this number gives us, divided by 365, which we assume that every year is 365, and that's okay to do. And this is our total in years, which is that number 0.025 something 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 something. So again, at this point we do have a total in years, right? And now we could just calculate the percentage of this based on 80, which would mean multiply by 0, no. Yeah, the percentage of 80. But again, we would like to do this per TV show. And when you look at it, this one is the total of all of them. So it is a total for Game of Thrones, Sopranos, The Wire. And we would also like each one of them as a total, right? And by looking at it, this one, it only goes, this calculates for all of them. So this does not really help us to calculate for each of them technically. But basically we want something like this. We want something very, very similar to this that we want to use for each one of them. And that would mean that we would have to repeat this inside of the for loop for each one of them, and it would be a lot of code repeated, and again, we don't want to repeat code. And this, we can do that. We can just put it inside and repeat it for each one of them, create an array, put it in the array, blah, 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 blah. But this is the point where a function comes in. So we want to reuse this more than once. We want to reuse this. We don't know how long is we know that the array is 3 right now. So we want to use this 4 times, which is 1 per each item and 1 for the total. So, and again, this might not be the easiest part to see these examples and extract them for yourself, but if you think that, okay, I'm repeating a lot of code, that might be the case of this could be a function that could be reusable by a lot of people, or not people, but yeah, a lot of code. So I will just move this out of the way so we have it all the way down here. And technically we don't need these ones anymore because now we have the total in years, and that's okay for now. Right now we don't care about the percentage yet. And I will remove this one here. So in order for us to give something like this as an output, it means that we need the name of each TV show, right? And then a total of time. So basically we need an array, right? We have two things that we need, and we need to present all of them. So we need an array, right? So we will just create an array here. We'll call it a constant. And we'll call it TV show time, right? And this is an array. And yeah, it will be empty because we will we could, of course, use this array to change things and add items, but let's not overcomplicate it. We can create as many arrays as we want. We can create as many variables as we want, and let's not modify the one that we are going through all the time. So now basically, and this should not be new, here we are going through each item on the array. So we can say TV show time dot push, and this inserts an item into the array, right? And now let's just yeah, this we have a name, right? Title, not name. Title. Okay. And now if we console log the title, TV show time out here. So this one is the one that happens inside of the for loop, inside of that one. So now in here we have our TV shows, right? This, again, this is not new. We are defining an array out here, and now we are pushing only the title of each object. And that's basically what we are getting there. And now, of course, we want the total time as well. So in order to have the name and the total time, this is where an object comes handy, right? We should probably have an object. So let's just create one. TV show equals, and we know how to write an object. So now we have a title, and I'll put empty, and the total time, and I'll put 0 here. Now I'll remove this value here, and I'll just send in the TV show, and let's see what happens in this case. So now we have an array with the 3 of this, because we are sending an empty string and 0. So now we just need to send the values we would like on that array. The title, I just deleted it, but let's do it again. So I need to remove the string dot title. If I just try it again. Okay, now we have this, and we have a total time. But the total time, now we could, as we said, sorry, I'm saying it wrong. It should be not be the total time. It should be the total time in years, because that's what we want per each episode, right? Not episode, TV show. We want Game of Thrones, and then this, which is the time in years in my life. So I'll just rename the property so it's not misleading. So now it's time in years. And we already calculated the time in years for the total of it, right? And I don't know if it's correct, but by our calculations, it should be correct. So now we need something really, 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 really similar for this one. And let's just do it then. Again, we're gonna have to do a lot of code, but let's do it. I will actually copy this if it's okay with you. I'll rename things after and change things after. So this is for the total calculation of all TV shows. This is for the individual calculation of each TV show. And now in here, I will just use this, hours, I will use this, and days, I will use this. This. Probably should be correct. The sum up of all those should give that down there. But now, what am I doing here? So now we can see our for loop is really, really big. I don't think until now we have done anything like such a big for loop. And again, that sometimes might be a question that you might not have, that you might have, or you might not know you have, which is, can I do more than one thing inside of a for loop? And yes, you can do whatever you want with it, because at each step, it starts at 0 and it goes till the end. And at each step, you have that value to do whatever you want with it. So in here, we are logging the whole thing. And we can see there title, days, hours, blah, blah. Then in here, we are just assigning the days to this counter, total days, that every time it just sums up itself with that one, itself with that one. And then in here, we are using minutes again and hours again, and we are not changing any value on the array. We are just using those values for more things, and that's really what we want here. We want to calculate 1 total and 3 subtotals, let's say. Or when I say 3, it's because there's 3 items. If we have 1 more, it will go 4 times, 5 times, whatever times we want. Yeah, let me just maybe, yeah, okay. Before this, I will just console log here the TV show. So it might be more understandable or less, I don't know. Because again, on the item 0 of the for loop, we printed Game of Thrones, but then we also printed Game of Thrones, and we are already calculated the time in years. And again, we are doing 2 completely separate calculations in one for loop, and we can make millions of them. It would be slow, but we can. We can do whatever we want inside of a for loop as many times as we want, like whatever we want, basically. So you could, of course, if you would feel a bit scared of like, okay, now I need to do this again, and you do another for loop, it's completely okay. It would work anyway. It would be the same thing. You would just be duplicating a little bit of code. So now, one of the things we have here, and in years, I'll just put this one outside again, because then it becomes easier to see it. Yeah, still there. And this total in years doesn't have to be up there. This was because it's not being used anywhere else. So it can just be here. Oops, sorry. So now here, when we look at these 3 lines, and these 3 lines, we are doing the exact same thing, right? And in here, we're actually doing it 3 times or X amount of times, basically. And again, this is where it comes that we could make a function, right? We could extract this into a function. So let's just try that. And basically this, what it does is that it transforms whatever data we have into years. So again, you guys know I'm not that good at naming functions, so transforms time to years, right? And this has to return a number, or has to return a year. So let's just write the return right now. 0, it's a number, whatever. And what we are using, this one might be complicated to figure out, but that one is actually quite easy. The variables that we are using is series duration index minutes, series duration index hours, series duration index days, right? Because the mean in hours, we have it there. The hours in days, we have it there. So we can see that our function could be made with 3 parameters, right? Minutes, hours, and days. So let's just do that. And it has to return years. As we already wrote here in our brainstorm, then we can just, because right now we don't have to worry with what's outside of the function. We are inside of this function, so let's forget about the rest for now. So now we want to return years. Return result in years. So now we will just say hours equals whatever hours we are sending in as okay, maybe plus, okay, we should make the minutes first, sorry. So let in minutes, oh no, in hours is minutes divided by 60, right? In hours, in days, sorry, days equals in hours divided by 24, and then let in years equals in days divided by 365, and then we return the result in years. But now in here, and again, VS Code tends to help you, as I keep saying. You can see that minutes is in black and hours and days are in gray. This actually means, and I hope it says something. Yeah, it does. It actually says that hours is declared, but it's never read. And that means that we have it as a parameter, and we are asking the user to give a parameter, but we are not using the parameter here because we are actually forgetting to add, like we, oh, sorry, now this is in front. Like we did up here, we add the previous one, the minutes in hours to it, but we used the total hours, which we add up there. So basically, we need to do that. So in hours is in hours plus hours. And we need the parentheses here, otherwise it won't work. And now in days is in days plus days. Yeah, this one. So now this function should return the total in years. So we have this console log here of total in years that we know it's correct according to our standard. So now let's just console log the function, the transform. And now we need to send in the minutes, hours, and days. So we have total minutes, total hours and total days. Total days, yes. Okay, console. I missed the log. Exactly. Okay, we got the exact same number as a result now. So whatever we were doing here, now it's a one line. It's only a one line because we moved this one outside. So if it works for this part, then it works for this part. So now we can get rid of quite a lot of lines of code, right? And let's maybe do that then. I will just, I'll remove this console log here, and I will say this is actually calling the function with those totals. And now we can assume that we don't need this anymore. I will actually remove this one. It doesn't give us any value anymore. And now inside, can we see it correctly? Yeah. So now this in years, instead of being all these calculations of this plus that plus whatever, we can, let's call it a different name, new in years maybe. We can just call the transform. And now, of course, we need to send, because now we are inside of the for loop, so we don't have, where was it? We don't have one variable, but we have to call the array and the object at that point of the array. So I'll just copy from here. So the first is minutes, then is hours, and then is days. Now this one is quite of a big one, but let's, again, in an object, we can always add more stuff to the object. We just need to give a different name to it. So it does not